The summons, the shuttle broke through Neptune's upper atmosphere, and Nadia Volkov pressed her forehead against the cold window. Beyond the swirling blue storms, a structure hung in the void like a crown of light. The Galactic Council Station. It was massive, built from materials that seemed to shift between solid and liquid, reflecting starlight in colors that had no names in any human language. Beautiful, isn't it? The voice came from across the narrow cabin. Nadia turned to see Marcus Webb studying her with those sharp gray eyes. The American sat with his arms crossed, his military posture never quite relaxing, even in zero gravity. Terrifying, Nadia corrected, her Russian accent softening the word. Beauty and terror are often the same thing. Marcus almost smiled. Almost. Poetic. I prefer practical. Then, practically speaking, we're flying toward beings who could erase us with a thought. Nadia let her gaze drift back to the station. They've been crossing stars since our ancestors were painting caves. The third member of their delegation floated forward from the pilot's section. Xiomara Chenreyes moved with the grace of someone comfortable in weightlessness, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. They invited us here, she said, her voice carrying the measured tone of a career diplomat. That means something, or it means they want to watch us beg, Marcus muttered. Xiomara's jaw tightened, but she kept her composure. Commander Webb, negativity won't serve us in there. We represent 7 billion people. Every nation, I know what we represent. Marcus cut her off, not unkindly. I also know what we've done. Wars, environmental collapse, the Delhi incident. They know our history, Ambassador. Every bloody page of it. Silence filled the cabin. The Delhi incident. 3 years ago, when human fear and alien miscommunication had nearly sparked an interstellar war. 50,000 dead in the crossfire before anyone realized it was all a tragic mistake. The memory hung between them like a ghost. Nadia broke the quiet. Then we show them we learned from it. The shuttle shuddered as docking clamps engaged. Through the viewport, the station's entrance yawned open, a throat of light swallowing them whole. Nadia's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd spent her life studying the cosmos, dreaming of this moment. Now that it was here, she felt impossibly small. The airlock hissed open. The air that rushed in was strange, carrying scents of ozone and something else, something ancient. Marcus went first, his hand instinctively moving to where a weapon would hang before remembering they'd been told to come unarmed. Xiomara followed and Nadia came last, her legs trembling slightly as artificial gravity took hold. The corridor beyond was vast. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with soft bioluminescence. Strange symbols floated in the air, languages older than human civilization. And at the end of the hallway, a doorway stood open, beyond which voices echoed in frequencies that made Nadia's bones vibrate. They walked in silence, 3 humans on a bridge between worlds. As they approached the doorway, a figure materialized from the light itself. Nadia gasped. The being was tall, impossibly tall, its body composed of what looked like living crystal. Facets of its form caught the light and split it into cascading rainbows. Where its face should be, there was only a smooth, reflecting surface that somehow conveyed awareness. The being's voice resonated not through sound, but through presence, filling their minds directly. I am the Archon, Judge of the Galactic Council. You are the ones called human? Xiomara stepped forward, bowing her head with practiced grace. We are. I am Ambassador Xiomara Chenreyes. This is Commander Marcus Webb and Dr. Nadia Volkov. We come on behalf of Earth and all her peoples. The Archon tilted its crystalline head, studying them with unseen eyes. Humanity, a young species, a violent species, a species that stands at a crossroads. It gestured toward the doorway. The Council has gathered to decide your fate, to determine if you deserve to walk among the stars, or if you should remain isolated until you learn what it means to be civilized. Marcus stiffened beside her. Nadia could feel his anger, his pride wounded by the casual dismissal. But he held his tongue. We understand the weight of this moment, Xiomara said carefully. We are ready to prove ourselves worthy. Prove? The Archon's voice carried something that might have been amusement. Words are wind, Ambassador. The Council does not judge by words. You will face the Unity Protocol. 3 trials. 3 tests of what you claim to be. If you pass, humanity will be welcomed. If you fail... The crystal being leaned closer, and Nadia felt cold dread wash over her. If you fail, your species will be sealed behind a barrier. You will never leave your solar system. You will watch the universe from behind walls until your son dies. Do you understand? Nadia's throat was dry. Beside her, she felt Marcus shift his weight, preparing for a fight that couldn't be won with fists. Xiomara's face had gone pale, but her voice remained steady. We understand. We accept the trials. The Archon straightened, its form pulsing with inner light. Then enter, humans. The council awaits. Your trial begins now. The doorway expanded, revealing a chamber beyond that defied comprehension. Thousands of beings sat in tiers that rose like mountains into darkness. Eyes of every color imaginable turned toward them. The air thrummed with power, with judgment, with the weight of civilizations that had conquered death itself. Nadia took a breath. Beside her, she felt Marcus's hand briefly brush against hers, a fleeting touch that steadied her more than any words could. Then they walked forward together, three humans stepping into the light, carrying the hopes and sins of an entire world on their shoulders. The trial had begun. The first trial, division. The chamber floor beneath their feet began to glow. Nadia felt the surface shift, becoming liquid, then solid again. Before she could speak, walls of pure energy erupted around each of them, separating the three humans into isolated pillars of light. What's happening? Marcus's voice was distant, muffled by the barrier. The first trial begins, the Archon announced to the assembled council. Unity is claimed easily when standing together. But what of unity when you stand alone, when trust becomes a weapon, when history whispers its poison in your ear? The light around Nadia solidified into walls. She was in a small chamber now, barely 3 meters across. A screen materialized before her, hovering in the air. On it, she saw Marcus in his own chamber, looking around with controlled alarm. Another screen showed Xiomara, her diplomatic mask cracking slightly. Then a new voice filled Nadia's chamber. It was deep, grinding like stones scraping together in an endless cavern. A shadow formed in the corner of her cell, and from it emerged a being of pure darkness. Its form constantly shifted, never quite solid, with burning red eyes that pierced through her. I am Kethzar, the shadow creature hissed, prosecutor of the council. Your judge, your test, what do you want from me? Nadia demanded, forcing strength into her voice. Truth, choice, consequence. Kethzar gestured, and the screens changed. Nadia saw images from Earth's history. The gulags, the purges, Stalin's Russia, her ancestors' homeland, drowning in blood and betrayal. This is your heritage, Dr. Volkov. The land that shaped you. Violence, oppression, millions dead in the name of unity. Nadia's fists clenched. That was generations ago. I am not. Are you not? The shadow moved closer. Your grandfather served in the NKVD. Your family's comfort was built on the suffering of others. And you, Doctor, you carry that legacy whether you admit it or not. The words cut deeper than Nadia expected. She'd spent her life running from that history, burying herself in science, in stars, in anything that let her forget. Here is your choice, Kethzar continued. In 30 seconds, Commander Webb will be given a decision. He can save himself and return to Earth safely, but only if he agrees to testify that Russia should not be part of humanity's delegation. That your nation is too dangerous, too unstable. He will be shown evidence of recent Russian aggression. He will be afraid. Nadia's breath caught. You're trying to divide us. I am testing you. You have one choice. You may send him a single message, any message, before he decides. Or you may remain silent and trust him. Kethzar's eyes burned brighter. But know this. If you send a message, it will reveal to him your family's past. Every dark secret, every shameful truth. He will know what blood runs in your veins. The timer appeared above the screen. 20 seconds. Nadia stared at Marcus's image. He looked tense, listening to something she couldn't hear. Her hands trembled. If she stayed silent, he might betray her nation out of fear. But if she spoke, he would know the truth she'd hidden her entire career. He would see her differently. The fragile connection between them would shatter. 15 seconds. In her mind, she saw that brief touch of hands before entering the chamber. The way his eyes had steadied her. 10 seconds. Trust. That's what this was about. Real trust meant vulnerability. It meant risk. 5 seconds. Nadia closed her eyes. I send no message. The timer reached 0. The screen flickered. She watched Marcus's face, watched him listen to whatever poison Kethzar was pouring into his ear. His jaw worked. His hands formed fists. Then, slowly, Deliberately, he shook his head. "No," she heard him say, his voice filtering through the barrier. "I don't care what evidence you show me. Nadia is my teammate. Russia is part of humanity. Whatever choice I make with them, not against them." Relief flooded through Nadia so powerfully her knees nearly buckled. Kethzar hissed in disappointment. But the trial wasn't over. The screen shifted to show Xiomara. The ambassador stood rigid in her chamber, facing her own shadow prosecutor. Nadia watched as images of the Mexican-American border flashed on screens around Xiomara. The violence, the families separated, the exploitation of Chinese workers in Mexican factories, a history of nations using each other, hurting each other. Ambassador Chen Reyes. Kethzar's voice echoed through all three chambers now. "You face the same choice. Dr. Volkov has remained silent, trusting Commander Webb. He has refused to betray her. Now the choice falls to you. You may secure your own safety and humanity's acceptance by condemning one of your companions. Choose either the Russian or the American. Prove that your nation's suffering justifies their exclusion." Xiomara's face appeared on the screen before Nadia. The diplomat's eyes were wet, but her voice was steel. "My people have been caught between powers for centuries, used, betrayed, and I will not perpetuate that cycle. Whatever judgment falls, it falls on all of us equally." The chambers dissolved. The walls of light faded. Nadia stumbled forward and found herself back in the main chamber, Marcus and Xiomara materializing beside her. Without thinking, Marcus reached out and caught Nadia's arm, steadying her. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, an understanding deeper than words. "Interesting." The Archon's voice reverberated through the space. "The first trial is complete. You have chosen trust over safety, unity over survival. But trust is easy when the cost is abstract." Kethzar's shadow form slithered back into the darkness of the council chamber. "They passed by accident," he hissed to the assembled aliens. "Give them real stakes, real sacrifice. They will crumble." The Archon raised one crystalline hand. "So be it. The second trial awaits." But before the world shifted again, Marcus's hand remained on Nadia's arm, his thumb brushing gently against her sleeve. She looked at him, this soldier who had trusted her when trust was a weapon, and felt something warm bloom in her chest despite the fear. "Thank you," she whispered. "Always," he replied. The council chamber darkened, and the second trial began to take shape around them. The second trial, sacrifice, the chamber transformed. The towering seats of the Galactic Council faded into mist, and Nadia found herself standing in a different space entirely. It was a garden of sorts, but not like any on Earth. Trees made of light grew from floors of polished stone. Water flowed upward in streams that defied gravity, and in the center of it all stood a new figure. This being was magnificent. Wings of crystalline structure spread from her back, each facet catching light and splitting it into songs, actual sounds that hummed through the air in perfect harmony. Her form was vaguely humanoid, but seemed to be composed of thousands of geometric shapes that constantly rearranged themselves. "I am Velshira," the being said, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. "I speak for the Harmonious Collective, 900 civilizations bound in perfect accord. I will administer your second trial." Marcus, Nadia, and Xiomara stood together, still shaken from the first test. Nadia was acutely aware of how close Marcus stood to her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "The first trial tested your trust," Velshira continued, her wings creating shifting patterns of light. "You chose each other over yourselves. Admirable. But trust without sacrifice is hollow. Any species can stand together when it costs them nothing." The garden around them shifted. The streams of water froze in place. The light trees dimmed. "Here is your second trial," Velshira said. "One of you must accept permanent exile from Earth. You will join the Galactic Council as humanity's eternal representative, living among the stars, learning our ways, guiding your species from afar. But you will never touch your home soil again, never see your families, never return." The three humans stood in stunned silence. "The alternative," Velshira's voice grew colder, "is that all three of you return to Earth and humanity is rejected from the galactic community forever. Your species will remain alone, isolated until your sun consumes your world." Xiomara found her voice first. "This is cruel. You're asking us to choose between personal sacrifice and species-wide condemnation." I am asking you to prove that unity means sacrifice, Velshira replied. Every species in the council has members who gave up everything for the greater good. If humanity cannot do the same, you are not ready. Marcus stepped forward, his military training taking over. I'll do it. I've already given my life to service. This is just another posting. No. Nadia grabbed his arm. Marcus, you can't just... It's logical, he said, turning to face her. For the first time since they'd met, his expression softened completely. I have no family left. My parents died years ago. I have no children, no spouse. It makes sense. Sense? Nadia's voice rose. You think sacrifice is just mathematics? Something in her tone made him pause. His gray eyes searched her face, and she saw the moment he understood. The connection between them wasn't just professional respect or camaraderie born from crisis. It was something more, something neither of them had acknowledged. Nadia, he started, but Xiomara interrupted. Wait. Both of you, wait. The ambassador's voice was strained. I should be the one. I'm trained for diplomatic isolation. I've spent my career building bridges between cultures. This is what I was meant for. You have a daughter, Nadia shot back. Isabella. 7 years old. I saw her picture in your file. Xiomara's mask finally broke. Tears spilled down her cheeks. And because I have a daughter, I should refuse? What kind of world am I giving her if I choose her over billions? The three of them stood in agonizing silence. The weight of the choice pressed down like a physical force. Nadia felt her heart racing, her mind spinning. She looked at Marcus, at the way his jaw was set with determination, even as his eyes betrayed his pain. She'd known him for less than a day, but she'd trusted him with her life. More than that, she'd felt something she hadn't felt in years, a spark of possibility, of connection, of maybe. There has to be another way, Nadia said desperately. She turned to Velshira. This trial is flawed. You're not testing our unity. You're testing our willingness to break it. Velshira's wings chimed discordantly. Explain. Unity means staying together, not tearing ourselves apart. If one of us accepts exile, we're not standing as one. We're dividing ourselves according to your terms. Nadia's scientific mind raced, searching for the logic, the loophole. You said every species in the council has members who sacrificed for the greater good. But they sacrificed together, didn't they? Not alone. The crystalline being tilted her head. Interesting interpretation, Marcus suddenly understood. He moved closer to Nadia, his shoulder touching hers. We all go, he said. If exile is required, we all accept it. Humanity sends us all as permanent representatives. My daughter, Xiomara started. We'll have a mother who chose to serve alongside her people rather than above them. Nadia finished. She'll grow up knowing you didn't abandon humanity. And you didn't abandon your teammates. Xiomara looked between them, hope and heartbreak warring on her face. But that's not what we choose, Marcus said firmly. We reject both options. We won't break our delegation, and we won't accept collective exile as sacrifice. If the council wants a human representative, they can work with all of humanity, not just exiled ambassadors. Velshira's wings stopped their constant motion. The garden around them began to brighten again. You refuse the trial? We refuse the false choice, Nadia said, finding courage in Marcus's presence beside her. Test our sacrifice differently. Ask us to give up something that doesn't destroy our unity. For a long moment, Velshira was silent. Then her wings began to chime again, this time in something that might have been approval. No species has ever refused the terms before. They always choose. They always break. Then maybe, Xiomara said, wiping her eyes. That's humanity's answer. We're stubborn enough to break your tests instead of each other. The garden dissolved. They were back in the council chamber, standing before the Archon and the thousands of alien observers. Nadia felt Marcus's hand find hers in the chaos of reformation, his fingers lacing through hers. She squeezed back, holding on like an anchor. The second trial is complete, the Archon announced. Verdict? Unprecedented. The humans have chosen unity over the terms of sacrifice. The council must deliberate. Kethzar's shadow form rose from the darkness. They cheated! They refused the trial. They redefined it, another voice called out. It was Velshira, her wings singing. Perhaps that is precisely what we needed to see. Marcus's hand remained in Nadia's. Neither of them let go. Xiomara stood beside them, her posture straightening, her diplomat's armor rebuilding itself. But Nadia knew the hardest trial was still coming. She could feel it in the way the Archon's crystalline form pulsed with anticipation. They'd faced division and resisted it. They'd faced sacrifice and redefined it. Now they would face something worse. The truth. The third trial. Truth, the council chamber floor split open. Not violently, but with the slow, inevitable certainty of continental drift. From the chasm rose a platform of dark stone, ancient and scarred. Standing upon it was a being that made even the Archon seem young. Its body was hewn from living rock, gray and striated like geological layers. Each movement caused tremors. Its eyes were deep cracks filled with molten light. I am Orium. The stone being's voice was thunder compressed into words. Elder of the first civilization. I have witnessed galaxies born and die. I have seen 1,000 species rise. Most fall not to external threat, but to internal rot. To lies they tell themselves. Nadia felt Marcus's hand tighten around hers. They hadn't let go since the last trial ended. That simple contact had become a lifeline. The third trial, Orium continued, is truth. Not the truth you tell others, the truth you hide from yourselves, the shame that festers in your cores. 3 beams of light shot down from the darkness above, each one encircling one of the humans. Nadia felt the light on her skin like a physical touch, invasive and searching. Each of you will speak your deepest secret to this council. Orium said, the thing you have buried. The thing that, if known, would destroy you, and your companions will hear it. All pretense will be stripped away. Xiomara's voice was barely a whisper. No, please. Truth or rejection. These are your options. Orium's molten eyes swept across them. Ambassador Chen Reyes, you will speak first. Xiomara stood frozen in her beam of light. Her carefully constructed composure crumbled piece by piece. When she finally spoke, her voice was hollow. I didn't stop a war. Everyone thinks I did. My reputation, my career, it's all built on a lie. The words came faster now, like poison being purged. 6 years ago, I was part of the negotiation team during the South China Sea crisis. The media reported that my diplomatic efforts prevented military conflict. But the truth is, I failed. I failed completely. My proposals were rejected. The nations were hours from engagement. The council leaned forward, hungry for the revelation. The war stopped because of a solar flare. Xiomara continued, her voice breaking. A massive electromagnetic pulse that knocked out communications on all sides. By the time systems were restored, cooler heads had prevailed, and military commanders on both sides chose to stand down. I did nothing, but my superiors needed a diplomatic victory, so they rewrote the narrative. Made me a hero. And I let them. I let them because I was ambitious and young and wanted the recognition. Tears streamed down her face. I've spent 6 years as a fraud, living in fear that someone would discover the truth. And now I'm here, representing humanity, and I'm just a woman who took credit for the sun's interference. Silence pressed down on the chamber. Nadia wanted to speak, to comfort, but the light around them felt like prison bars. Commander Webb. Orium's voice rolled like avalanche. Your turn. Marcus's hand went rigid in Nadia's. She felt him tremble just once before his military discipline locked everything down. When he spoke, his voice was flat, emotionless. Kabul, 8 years ago. I was leading a squad through enemy territory. We were ambushed. My men were pinned down, taking fire from 3 directions. The protocol was clear. Stay with your unit, fight together, die together if necessary. He paused, and Nadia heard something crack in his controlled tone. I ran. I saw an escape route, and I took it. I left 12 men behind. Told myself I'd get reinforcements, circle back, save them tactically. But that's not why I ran. I ran because I was terrified. Because in that moment, I chose my life over theirs. His voice dropped to barely audible. 3 of them died before backup arrived. The survivors reported that I had pursued a flanking enemy, that I had acted tactically. They covered for me because admitting their commander abandoned them would have destroyed morale. I accepted their lie. Built my career on it. Every promotion, every commendation, it's all built on the foundation of my cowardice. Nadia's chest ached. She looked at this man who had trusted her, who had held her hand, and saw him differently now. Not worse, more real. More human, Dr. Volkov, Orium said. Complete the triangle of truth. Nadia's mouth was dry. The light around her intensified, seeming to see through her skin, into her bones, into her soul. She'd spent her entire life running from her family's past. Now she had to voice her own sin. 10 years ago, she began, her accent thickening with emotion. I was competing for a position at the Moscow Institute of Astrophysics. The position would define my career, my future. My main competition was a colleague, Dmitry Sokolov. His research was brilliant, perhaps more brilliant than mine. The words felt like glass in her throat. I had access to the selection committee's network, a simple security flaw. I planted evidence in Dmitry's files suggesting he had falsified data. Small things, easy to miss on first glance, but enough to raise questions, enough to create doubt. Marcus's hand remained in hers. She couldn't look at him. The committee chose me. Dmitry's reputation was destroyed. He left academia, disappeared into obscurity. I built my career on his ashes. And the research I've done since, the discoveries that got me noticed by the space program, none of it would have happened if I hadn't sabotaged him. Her voice cracked. I destroyed a good man's life because I was afraid I wasn't good enough. And I've lived with that knowledge every day since, hiding behind equations and stars, pretending I earned what I stole. The council erupted. Voices in 100 languages crashed over them like waves. Condemnation, judgment, disgust. The humans stood exposed, their darkest secrets laid bare before the universe. Kethazar's shadow form rose triumphantly. You see? This is humanity. Liars, cowards, saboteurs. They claim unity, but they are built on deception. They do not deserve, we forgive you. The voice was Xiomara's. She had moved within her beam of light to face Marcus and Nadia as directly as the barriers allowed. What? Kethzar hissed. I forgive you, Marcus. I forgive you, Nadia. Xiomara's tears hadn't stopped, but her voice was clear. You made mistakes. You carry shame. So do I, but that doesn't define who you are now. It doesn't erase the trust you showed me, the stand you've taken here. Marcus's voice was rough. Xiomara, I abandoned men to die. Nadia destroyed someone's life. You can't just— Yes, I can, Xiomara interrupted. Because forgiveness isn't about deserving it. It's about recognizing that we're all broken. And we're still here together. Still trying to be better than our worst moments. Nadia felt something break open inside her chest. She turned to Marcus, finally meeting his eyes. She's right. I heard what you did, and I don't see a coward. I see someone who survived, who came back, who spent 8 years trying to be worthy of the lie his men told. And I see someone brilliant enough to know she was competing against her equal, Marcus said, his voice softening. Someone so afraid of her own family's shadow that she made a terrible choice. But Nadia, look at what you've become. Look at the work you've done since. It doesn't excuse— Nadia started. No, he agreed. It doesn't excuse. But it matters. The council had gone silent, watching this unprecedented exchange. Orium's stone face was unreadable. Nadia turned to Xiomara. You didn't stop a war, but you've stopped conflicts since. Your work has saved lives. The lie that started your career doesn't negate the truth of what you've accomplished. They're forgiving each other, someone whispered in the council. Even after knowing the worst. Humans are illogical, another voice muttered. No, Belshira's chiming voice rang out. They are exactly what we asked to see. Unity doesn't mean perfection. It means standing together despite imperfection. They have shown us their shame, and instead of fracturing, they have chosen to remain whole. The Archon's crystalline form pulsed with intense light. The third trial is complete. The humans have spoken truth, faced judgment from each other, and chosen forgiveness over condemnation. Orium's stone face cracked into what might have been a smile. In 4 billion years, I have seen many species face this trial. Most turn on each other. Most cannot forgive. These humans— the ancient being's molten eyes swept over them. Perhaps they are not ready for the stars. But perhaps the stars are not ready for them. The platform sank back into the floor. The beams of light faded. Nadia, Marcus, and Xiomara stood together in the center of the chamber, exposed and raw and somehow stronger for it. Marcus pulled Nadia closer, his arm sliding around her waist. It wasn't proper. It wasn't professional. But in that moment, she didn't care. She leaned into him, feeling his heart beat against her side. One trial remains, the Archon announced. The trial that will determine your fate. But Nadia barely heard the words. She was too focused on the feeling of Marcus's hand on her waist, on the way Xiomara reached out and took both their hands, binding them together. Whatever came next, they would face it as one. The final stand, the council chamber's lights blazed to full intensity. Every tier of seats was visible now, thousands upon thousands of beings from across the galaxy. Nadia had never felt so exposed, so utterly seen. Marcus's arm remained around her waist, and she drew strength from that contact even as exhaustion threatened to drag her down. The Archon rose from its crystalline seat, and the chamber fell into absolute silence. "We have witnessed 3 trials." The Archon's voice resonated through every molecule of air. "We have seen trust, sacrifice redefined, and truth spoken. But trials alone do not determine admission to the Galactic Council. Now comes the vote." A holographic display materialized above the center of the chamber, showing names and symbols of countless species. Some Nadia recognized from her studies, most she'd never heard of. "Each civilization will cast their judgment," the Archon continued. "Acceptance or rejection. But know this, humans, the vote must be unanimous. If even one species rejects you, you will be sealed within your solar system until your son's death." "That's impossible," Xiomara breathed beside them. "There are over 2,000 species here. We'd need every single one to—" "The Council knows what it asks," Orium's rumbling voice cut through. "Unanimous acceptance is rare. In the last millennium, only 7 species have achieved it." The voting began. Names appeared on the holographic display, followed by symbols. A green star for acceptance, a red void for rejection. Nadia watched, her heart sinking as the first votes came in. Green, green. Red, green, red, red. "They're rejecting us," Marcus said quietly. "We're not going to make it." But then something shifted. The pattern changed. A long string of green stars appeared. Velshira's harmonious collective had voted acceptance, all 900 civilizations as one. More greens followed, species after species, seeing something in humanity's trials that moved them. Still, the reds appeared. Some species would never accept humanity, not after seeing Earth's violent history. When the count reached its end, the display showed the final tally: 2,047 green stars. On 203 red voids, the vote has failed. Kethazar's voice was triumphant. "The humans are rejected." But Orium raised one massive stone hand. "Not yet. There is precedent." The final stand. The Archon's crystalline form pulsed. "Elder Orium is correct. Before final judgment, the rejected species may make one last appeal. They may choose a single representative from the opposing votes and attempt to change that species' decision. If they succeed in converting even one rejection to acceptance, and that species is willing to sponsor them, then the vote is reconsidered." Hope flickered in Nadia's chest. "Fragile as a candle flame. Choose wisely," the Archon warned. "You have one chance, one conversation. The fate of your species rests on the words you speak to a single alien mind." Xiomara stepped forward, her diplomatic instincts taking over. "We need to analyze the votes. Find the species most likely to be persuaded." "Look for the Velkreth," Marcus interrupted. His military strategist mind was already working. "They're the ones we contacted 8 years ago. The Delhi incident. We mistook their probe for a weapon and nearly started a war." On the display, the Velkreth symbol glowed red, one of the most vehement rejections. "That's insane," Xiomara said. "They hate us. They lost people because of our mistake." "Why would they ever—" "Because it's honest," Nadia said, understanding flooding through her. "Every other species we could try to charm or convince with pretty words. But the Velkreth? They know exactly what we're capable of at our worst. If we can reach them, it means something." Marcus looked at her, his gray eyes intense. "It's a huge risk." "Everything we've done here has been a risk," Nadia replied. She squeezed his hand. "But we've learned something. We're stronger when we're honest about our flaws than when we pretend to be perfect." Xiomara closed her eyes, then nodded. "The Velkreth. We'll stand before them. So be it," the Archon said. "The Velkreth delegation will approach." The crowd parted. From one of the highest tiers, 3 beings descended. They were insectoid in form, their exoskeletons a deep purple that seemed to absorb light. Multiple limbs moved in perfect synchronization. Their eyes were compound, reflecting fractured images of the humans. But it was their presence that struck Nadia most, a palpable aura of grief and rage. The lead Velkreth stopped before them. When it spoke, its voice clicked and buzzed, translated by the chamber's systems. "I am Thaskanal. I speak for the Velkreth Conclave. You wish to address us? The species that killed 47 of our explorers because you feared what you did not understand?" The accusation hung in the air like a blade. Nadia felt Marcus tense beside her, but he remained silent, letting the moment breathe. Xiomara stepped forward first. Yes, we wish to address you, but not to justify what happened, not to explain it away or make excuses. Then why? Thaskenal's compound eyes glittered with barely contained hostility. Why should we listen to the species that murdered our kin? Because, Nadia said, finding her voice, we need you to teach us. The Velkreth delegation went still. Around the chamber, murmurs rippled through the council. Teach you? Thaskenal's tone was incredulous. You address us as students, address teachers? You have audacity, humans. We have desperation, Marcus said bluntly, and humility. We screwed up. 8 years ago, we saw your probe and panicked. We thought it was a weapon. We responded with weapons. And 47 innocent beings died because we were ignorant and afraid. You admit this? Another Velkreth asked. Of course we admit it, Sayomara said. We've spent the last 3 trials admitting our failures. That's humanity's defining feature. We fail constantly, spectacularly, and sometimes tragically, Nadia continued. But here's what else defines us. We learn. Not always fast enough. Not always before causing harm. But we do learn. The Delhi incident taught us that fear and ignorance are deadlier than any weapon. Pretty words, Thaskenal said coldly. But words don't resurrect the dead. No, Nadia agreed. Nothing can. But isolation won't honor their memory either. If you seal us away, we remain ignorant. We remain dangerous. But if you accept us, if the Velkreth people teach us what we don't know. She paused, gathering courage. You lost 47 explorers because we didn't understand. How many others will die if we're locked away, still ignorant, until we break free someday through desperation? But if you guide us, if you help us learn to see the universe as you see it, then maybe those 47 deaths become the catalyst that transformed humanity from a dangerous child into a responsible member of the galactic community. Thaskenal's exoskeleton rippled with emotion. You ask us to turn our grief into a lesson for your benefit? No, Marcus said firmly. We ask you to turn your grief into prevention, to make sure no other species suffers what yours did because of our ignorance. We're not asking for forgiveness. We're asking for a chance to be taught by those we've wronged so we never repeat that wrong. The 3 Velkreth conferred in rapid clicks too fast for translation. The chamber waited in breathless silence. Nadia felt tears threatening. They'd laid everything bare. Their shame, their failures, their desperate need for guidance. There was nothing left to give. Finally, Thaskenal turned back to them. Your words are strange. Most species beg for acceptance by claiming they're worthy. You beg for acceptance by admitting you're not. Because we're not, Sayomara said simply. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But we can become worthy if someone shows us how. Another long silence. Then Thaskenal made a gesture with its multiple limbs that the translation systems rendered as profound resignation mixed with unexpected respect. The Velkreth conclave will change its vote, Thaskenal announced, not because you deserve acceptance, but because you are the first species in memory to admit you don't. We will accept you, and we will teach you. But know this, humans, if you repeat your mistakes, if you show that our teaching falls on deaf ears, we will be the first to call for your expulsion. That's fair, Marcus said. More than fair. The holographic display updated. The Velkreth symbol shifted from red void to green star. But more than that, a golden light surrounded it, indicating sponsorship. The Archon's voice filled the chamber. The Velkreth have changed their vote and offered sponsorship. Per council law, the vote will be reconsidered. All species, cast your judgment again, knowing that the Velkreth, who suffered most from humanity's actions, have chosen acceptance. The display reset. Names began appearing again. This time the pattern was different. The greens came faster, more decisively. Species that had voted red before now shifted to green, influenced by the Velkreth's unprecedented forgiveness and humanity's raw honesty. Nadia held her breath. Marcus's arm tightened around her waist. Sayomara gripped both their hands. The final count appeared, 4th out 49 green stars. 1 red void, 1 rejection remains, Kethzar hissed. The vote still fails. But the Archon was studying the display. The single rejection is from the Shakir collective. Elder Orium, do the Shakir have standing to cast a vote? Orium's stone face cracked into a definite smile now. The Shakir civilization became extinct 3,000 years ago. Their seat remains out of tradition, but they cannot cast binding votes. Then the vote is unanimous among living species. The